Well, as we barrel headlong into a permanent surveillance state in the United States, something disturbing has come to light surrounding the Charlie Kirk memorial. Days before that event, Israel reportedly signed a $4 million contract with a California firm called Show Faith by Works. Now, according to new reporting by investigative journalist Brian Ferentz, that same company was behind what they described as the largest Christian geofencing campaign in U.S. history. After the memorial, even Turning Point's Andrew Colvett openly admitted this on the Jesse Waters show that their tech partners, had tracked more than 270,000 phones in and around the stadium. Watch.
Break a little bit of news on your program, Jesse. Our partners that do sort of geotagging with devices, they told us that they tracked over 277,000 devices in the vicinity of State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Wow. 277,000. So that just gives you an idea of the scale of humanity out there. But
it also gives you the scale of something darker. Like, how do you know that number? Did these people consent to that? Just so you understand, people who came to the event to mourn Charlie Kirk were digitally tagged under the label of outreach. I'm going to reach out to these people afterwards. And at the same time, reports suggest that Charlie had rejected an enormous financial offer connected to foreign interests, sparking internal turmoil at Turning Points USA. More of that story, I'm sure, will come out. Was this data tracking campaign simply about outreach or something much deeper? The timing of those contracts and the mass digital sweep of Christians attending this event demands answers. Joining us now is the journalist who first uncovered this entire network, Brian Ferentz. He's an investigative reporter whose work has been exposing the data mining operations here, money trails that few other people are willing to touch. Brian, thank you for joining us here on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's start with what you found buried in these contracts here and these FARA documents.
Sure, that's a good point. And I do just want to say, first of all, the assassination of Charlie Kirk was an absolute tragedy. And, it was shocking. I saw your show earlier, I think it was 4 days ago, talking about, the potential military involvement, other foreign involvement. And what is shocking to me is that, most of his employees at Turning Point USA have not been questioning this clearly false narrative by the FBI. So I'll tie into that in just a second. So in terms of this FARA document that you were mentioning, I do want to give credit to several other investigative reporters that assisted me. That's all. If you follow me on X at Brian Ferentz1 or brianferentz.com, they're all sourced and referenced there. So I want to give credit to them as well. But if you go into that FARA document, one church that you see very prominently is Dream City Church. And Dream City Church in Phoenix, Arizona is where Charlie Kirk gets highlighted there. He has all of his fundraisers, all of his rallies there at Dream City Church. Hosts Trump there. TPUSA holds their AmFest there. And in an article in the Arizona Republic, Pastor Tommy Barnett was mentioning in the article, first of all, he was comparing, Charlie Kirk to Jesus, which, some would maybe question that. But he was mentioning that during one of their services, they played an AI recording of Charlie Kirk's voice, like beyond the grave, saying, first of all, I want you to know I'm fine, not because my body is fine, but because my soul is secure in Christ. And I knew the risk, and I do it all again. So that was an AI video that they played. But the Dream City Church, if you look into, their alliances and what they're doing, they have on their website several pro-Israel websites. So that's why I personally believe that Dream City Church is not, passive in this geofencing. It says in the documentation, all these churches, they're going to be, conducting this geofencing. It can include, connecting to the wireless network of that church, for example, but certainly entering any of those, physical boundaries. And then, Pastor Tommy Barnett, given some of his comments and some of their pro-Israel stances, I believe they're an active participant. The $4.1 million from Israel that they're spending, it also includes paying pastors in their homilies, in writings, to deliver this pro-Israel messaging and propaganda. So I have some concerns there, especially how closely related Turning Point is to Dream City Church. So that's in the FAIR documentation. It does reference similar to what Andrew Colvett mentioned about, I think he said geotagging there, but it's very, very similar. And then there's some concerning connections also between Turning Point has created a company called Superfeed Technologies Incorporated, and they run several large apps, including Scott Pressler's Early Vote Action app. And if you look at the privacy data there, it says very clearly this information may be shared. Yeah, so that what's being shared on the screen, Turning Point USA, Superfeed Technologies, which is a company created as a foreign for-profit company in Arizona.
Wait a minute, it's a foreign for-profit company that's running all of these apps?
The filing is actually listed there. I think I might have sent it to your producer. I have it handy as well. But it lists the directors, and it mentions it's a foreign for-profit company. And they're basically making the apps for Turning Point, the apps for Scott Pressler's Early Vote Action, several GOP groups, and any ballot chasing. Yeah, there it is. You can see at the top, it's a little bit blurry there, but that's off of the Arizona Corporate Commission website. It used to be called a different name, but Superfeed Technologies. And you can see not only is Tyler Boyer mentioned there, who was the COO of Turning Point Action. I believe he's now the CEO of Turning Point Action, which Charlie Kirk used to hold that position. But also Erica Kirk's mother, Lori, I forget the pronunciation, but it's Lori Frensiv or something like that. She's listed on the board of directors of Superfeed Technologies as well. So I think there's a couple things to connect now, given that you have their official Turning Point spokesman and the Charlie Kirk Show producer talking about geofencing through tech partners. You have their very closely aligned Dream City Church, which the pastor also talked about their growing relationship with Charlie Kirk. It was ordained by God. The program will continue. That's their official location for all their rallies. They're actively involved in this geofencing, this Israel, propaganda campaign. And then you have Superfeed Technologies, which is Tyler Boyer again, and it's a Turning Point created company. Anyone who downloaded that app, it's very likely, it says at least in the privacy agreement, that your data may be shared with third parties. So, did Turning Point and Superfeed license or sell that data to Israel directly, to other companies? And again, they make a lot of other apps, including news apps. You can see it listed there. There's a bunch of GOP apps.
So basically, if you personally, anybody watching right now has downloaded any of these apps, what happens to your data?
Well, it depends specifically on the app. But if you look between the Google Play Store and then in iTunes, it says the different privacy and what is released. And in some of them, it says by downloading it, you agree to their privacy policy and you give license to share your email address, your location, your app usage, your phone MEI, your unique identifier. And then there's a couple other items in there that varies from app to platform. But basically, that's all the geofencing data. That's exactly what they need to know who you are, who your known associates are, where you go, what you do. Think about taking an Uber app that's saying the time when you enter and leave an event. And then, some of these apps have a lot of information, not just location information, but it's very easily used for marketing. It's very easily used for propaganda. It was used by the federal government to prosecute J6 attendees, which was later ruled unconstitutional. So I guess my question is, if that's unconstitutional, how can it be constitutional to violate the privacy of all these citizens who are simply going to church, going to what they believe is a political rally, but then if they downloaded the Turning Point app, or you have their official spokesman saying, yeah, we're tracking you, or their partners, Dream City Church, saying, yes, we are absolutely participating in this geofencing and this pro-Israel targeting, which is absolutely aligned with our mission. It's not like at the end, Charlie Kirk was trying to do the right thing. He was saying, what is going on? Maybe some of this foreign money from Israel is not a good thing. He called for a widespread audit of his entire TPUSA.
But if I may interrupt you, this app had been built while he was still alive, presumably, so he would have known that it was a foreign entity building his company's app, right?
Well, so that's a good question. And so, if you, again, the CEO and chairman of the board is Tyler Boyer. So, how much? I'm sure that Charlie Kirk did know to some extent, but I'm not sure how much falls on Tyler Boyer and how much falls on Charlie Kirk. But what we do know at the end is Charlie Kirk was questioning that. He was calling for a company-wide audit, which I haven't seen anything happen to that since his death. But there was an internal memo. He was calling for a culture change. He was calling for an audit of expenses because I think Candace Owens has touched on this. Potentially there was some money, I don't know, being misused or possibly embezzled or just spent, unreasonably.
Yeah, they were burning through money. He was like, "Where's all this money going? It's like disappearing."
And we know that he had called for an audit on internally as well of his finances. There's emails to his staff saying as such within the month preceding his death.
That's exactly right. So I think when you put all that information together, it raises a lot of questions. Obviously, it's a violation of privacy. Probably many people, even though it's in a privacy policy they agree to, they're not aware that potentially their information is being sold to these tech partners or foreign countries or even Dream City Church, which is then selling it to Israel. So I think there's a lot of concerns there. And then I agree that not only should people be more cautious about what apps they're downloading, they need to look at that privacy policy. It does say on those apps that they can request to have their data deleted. So personally, if I had downloaded the Turning Point app or the Early Vote Action app through Scott Presser, I would request that my data be deleted. I would remove that app.
Let me ask you something. How much time do you spend every day on a web browser? How much time do you spend clicking around online, searching, scrolling, typing, endless tabs? It's a lot, right? Well, there's a new AI web browser from Perplexity called Comet that is completely changing the way you're able to interact with your browser. Using Comet feels like having a personal assistant living in your web browser that can actually do things for you across the internet. Yes, actually do things, not just give you answers. You can ask Comet to handle tasks for you, and it literally clicks, types, searches, and scrolls just like you would to get things done for you in the background while you go about your day. Comet can actually shop for you. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't tell my daughter about this. It can make reservations for you. It can book travel for you. It can summarize articles or videos, send emails, schedule meetings, and a lot more to make your life easier. Let me show you how it works. So for example, you could type or say, find a great Mexican restaurant in Austin next Wednesday at a time that fits my calendar, book it, then send a calendar invite and an email to my colleague John with the details. Pretty cool, right? So download Perplexity's new AI web browser called Comet today by heading to pplx.ia/redacted and let your browser work for you. Plus, right now, when you download Comet, you get a month of Rumble Premium for free. Again, that's pplx.ia/redacted. Go now and take back your time online. I think one of the things that stood out to me is that when people left this event, people were complaining online. They're like, hey, like a day later, I was receiving a text message from Erica Kirk, kind of like asking for money. And it's like, I just was at this memorial event, and it's really weird that they now have my data and they're asking for money. And Erica Kirk's name was on it, right? It looked like it was from her. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, the next day, I know it's all politics, but the next day they're soliciting money and raising money using Erica Kirk's name now that they've tracked your phone from this memorial event you went to?
No, that's a great question. And I've covered, Turning Point pretty closely. So what I observed there was that message, and there was about 3 text messages and also some emails. They were actually sent out through Turning Point Action, which is the 501c4 arm of Turning Point, which is their political arm under Tyler Boyer. And even though it had Erica Kirk's name and message, it's very likely it was sent through Turning Point Action's infrastructure. It's certainly linked to their page and then their fundraising link. And some of them, they were selling T-shirts of Charlie Kirk and different things. But when you talk about the fundraising, I did want to mention this also. I was tracking several of the Give, Send, Go campaigns, and the Kirk family, at least $11 million was raised for after Charlie Kirk's death. At least $11 million. So I believe it's a little bit disingenuous for a text to be sent out. I mean, Charlie Kirk's net worth was approximately $14 million prior to his death. So if he had $14 million, he probably had some life insurance. His annual income through his assets and, his show and everything and books is about $1 million a year. And then $11 million was raised for the Kirk's family. So to say, we need to raise money for their family, I don't know how accurate that is, or I don't know how appropriate that is immediately following his death. And then, of course, there was a big push by Turning Point, specifically Turning Point Action, to raise funds, get donations, sell T-shirts. There were several comments where several people said it was very distasteful. It left a bad taste in their mouth. And then it also raised some other issues. Erica Kirk mentioned that they're going to be posting from Charlie Kirk's personal account beyond the grave. She says they have diaries of his and financial projections through 2028, and then also that they have hours and hours of his voice recorded. But it raises the question: well, his voice has already been arguably misused by Dream City Church using AI voice. How do we know that what Turning Point and Mrs. Kirk is going to be releasing? How do we know that Charlie Kirk actually said that, or could it be AI? We don't know.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy. Can I go back? And then, Brian, we'll get you out of here. But I love your reporting on this. This data that's collected and the people that went to the memorial event or otherwise, because people are asking, so where is this data going? Is this going to this Israeli company? Is it going to Israel that now is partnered with them on this? Or is it staying in America? Does Turning Points have this data? Like, does Israel have this data now?
Well, I think it's difficult to know that for certain. I mean, what we know is that there's a new initiative where Israel has announced they will be purchasing the geolocation data. Churches like Dream City Church are participating. So certainly if you attend Dream City Church, they will be purchasing your data. I guess the question is, did Turning Point already sell it? Did Scott Pressler and Early Vote Action already sell it? Did Superfeed Technologies, which is an independent company, did they sell the data? And then I believe it's built on the Google Firebase platform also. So now there's a question of, did Google have the data? Did Google sell the data directly to Israel? Because Google has done some very pro-Israel marketing. I believe they have something like, 40,000, 400,000 paid directly to Google for pro-Israel messaging. So, I mean, it seems very likely that one way or another that data did make it to Israel.
Jeez. So, I mean, we put that Times of Israel article up there. I mean, they're admitting it. Like, they're buying it. This isn't like propaganda. It's coming right from the Times of Israel. Like, they're buying data about pastors, buying this information about Christians who are going to these churches. Why do you need this data?
That's right. And they also mentioned, and it came out recently, that there was $7,000 being paid per post of pro-Israel posts to these influencers. And I can tell you for certainty that many of the Turning Point influencers, they had an entire influencer program at one point. They're all very pro-Israel. Likely they have been receiving and making paid posts for Israel in the Turning Point network. So,
and are these the same that were paid by Israel, or were they paid by Turning Points to make these pro-Israel posts?
Well, that's a tricky question. But most of the $7,000 posts were paid to a social media company like Influenceable, for example, directly from Israel or one of their companies in America. For example, this geofencing was done through that faith company in California, so probably was run through a similar California. Those companies are usually created like within 3 months, by the way. So a company stood up, the money's funded. They then do an ad buy through a social media influencer company like Influenceable, and then they pay different amounts of money to post different messages. But there's several people on my post that commented, since Charlie Kirk's death, there's been not a single Turning Point employee or influencer that has questioned anything about Israel, aside from maybe Candace Owens, who had a big falling out with them. It just hasn't happened. It's almost a company policy.
Right. Now, I'm trying to find, I put something in my notes recently, and I can't find it, about a new organization that was registered by FARA. So it's an Israeli organization that is specifically a Christian organization to target Christians specifically because they realize that the only Christians that they have left are Christian Zionists who are fundamentalists, and they're mostly losing the younger generation. So it makes sense that they would want to capture the sort of Christian support that they have lost, and that they could do this not only through your data, but through these, because this could be quite targeted, right? It's a way to endear people to their Christianity, and also a part of this Christianity must be a Zionist support. So this is, I'm extrapolating. I don't have this with me right now. I made a note of it and can't find it live on the air here. But it makes sense, like as a tactic, it would make sense. So we'll just leave it there because I don't have any proof to ask you about it right now.
Sure. And was it Show Faith by Works LLC? That's the company.
It might have been Show Faith by Works. Is that what you brought?
Yeah.
That's exactly what. Yes, this is exactly it. Okay, so you brought it. I didn't have to. Thank you.
No worries. And I think the other thing to. Oh, go ahead.
You why don't you explain it, since I said I only left it as a note. I didn't go down this. Why don't you tell us what it is?
Sure. So from the FAIR documents and also the Times of Israel article and just the plan of what's being done, it's not only just marketing through this geofencing data, but it's actually paying both the influencers and the actual pastors of the Christian churches. So you might get a homily that says, hey, keep in mind, Israel's our greatest ally. They're the chosen people. Let's keep sending them $50 billion a year. No one question Israel, or you're out of the church. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Brian, thank you for this. It's deeply disturbing. I think there's some, again, I hate to say this, but I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. And we now have the actual fire. We have the proof of this. And we have the confirmation literally by Culver on Jesse Waters' program, admitting that they, with their tech partners, were managed to track these people. So what comes next, I don't know, but this is deeply disturbing. And I would encourage, I guess, anybody who's downloaded these apps to go inside the apps and demand that they delete this data. But this is there's some dark things happening here. Brian, thank you for your great reporting on this. Follow Brian. What's your X account, Brian, that people can follow you and follow your reporting?
It's at Brian Ferentz 1, but I do want to end with just one question real quickly. I'd ask people to visit realscottpresler.com, and ask yourself, is there a connection between registering low propensity voters and pushing mail-in voting and early voting, which then allows Mossad and AIPAC to steal elections and place AIPAC-aligned politicians on both sides in office? realscottpresler.com.
That's a great question.
Yeah. Interesting.
Thank you, Brian, for that. That's something to ponder.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. At Brian.
But Israel stood to lose. Israel didn't stand to lose the 2024 election. Israel's going to gain either way.
That's exactly what I'm saying. If you look at the politicians in the federal Congress who have received significant funding from AIPAC, both Republicans and Democrats, what I'm saying is question, is there a vested interest in stealing elections, not for like the Democrats or the Republicans, but for the pro-AIPAC candidate and making sure that they are in office?
I guess keep our eye on Thomas Massey's district and that upcoming election for sure. Focus on that. Brian, great stuff today. Thank you so much for this and great reporting. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on the show.